At 5:47 a.m., a convoy of heavy machinery rumbled into the gravel lane leading to the 1748 Pendleton Farmhouse. The air smelled of diesel and dew.
That eyesore has been dragging down property values for decades. Today, we fixed that.
Ma'am, this structure looks solid. You sure the county signed off on emergency demolition?
Cynthia didn't answer. She just raised her hand, and the bulldozer's claw punched through the field stone wall like it was drywall. Timber splintered, stones crumbled, and 276 years of history collapsed into a cloud of dust. The ground shook.
Stop. That's a National Register historic site. You are destroying federal property.
Timothy Pendleton's hands shook as he pulled a framed certificate from inside his coat. The National Register of Historic Places listing, dated 1972.
Adorable. You think that piece of paper means anything? The county condemned it. We're improving the neighborhood.
This house was the last standing structure from the 1777 Continental Army encampment. My ancestor died for this land.
And now it's gravel. Security, escort this trespasser out. The HOA has already won.
This house was the centerpiece of a pending National Historic Landmark. The entire subdivision sits inside the federal buffer zone.
Pending, meaning it never happened. You had decades to fix this dump, and you didn't. We did what you wouldn't.
A handful of early rising neighbors had gathered, drawn by the noise. They stood near the subdivision sign, watching.
Look at what we've achieved. Cleaner streets, higher property values, and one less rat-infested relic dragging us down.
You are celebrating a federal crime. This letter from the National Park Service confirms the landmark review started 18 months ago.
A letter is just paper. This community is real. And we don't answer to park rangers. We answer to property owners.
The neighbors applauded. One man shouted about time. Cynthia folded the letter and tossed it onto the rubble.
They have no idea. The federal government doesn't bluff on historic preservation.
He looked down at the certificate again, the embossed seal of the National Register, the signatures of state and federal officials who had promised protection.
Go home, old man. You lost. Tomorrow, the crew returns to clear the rest of this mess.
That night, Timothy sat at his kitchen table, the National Register certificate before him, and dialed the National Park Service.
My name is Timothy Pendleton. This morning, a wrecking crew demolished my 1748 farmhouse, a federally registered historic site.
The ranger's voice tightened. He confirmed the property was the centerpiece of a pending National Historic Landmark designation. He told Timothy to expect a call from Director Vance within the hour. The Park Service would act exactly. 37 minutes later, his phone rang. Director Eleanor Vance's office.
Mr. Pendleton, this is Director Vance. We are opening a full federal investigation. This will not be ignored.
They cheered while the walls came down. My ancestor's home is gone.
We can hold them accountable. The law is clear, and we have jurisdiction here.
By midnight, the NPS had officially activated the buffer zone clause and flagged the Pendleton file as a priority case.
He looked out at the dark yard. For the first time all day, a small, stubborn hope flickered.
By 9, the next morning, 3 federal agencies had filed simultaneous legal actions against the HOA.
What is this? A prank?
The notice cited 16 U.S.C. Section 470, willful destruction of a protected historic site. Penalty, up to $250,000 and 5 years imprisonment.
You can't hold me personally responsible. This was an HOA decision.
Outside the farmhouse site, NPS rangers cordoned off the rubble with yellow tape, a federal crime scene.
We had a county order. What's happening?
By noon, news vans lined the subdivision entrance. The demolition was no longer a local matter.
They're treating this like a felony. It was a nuisance property.
Her phone rang. The county commissioner who signed the order was withdrawing support, citing improper influence in the permit.
She stared at the framed HOA charter on the wall, suddenly aware that every signature was now a liability.
That afternoon, 2 NPS officials briefed Timothy on the full scope of the pending landmark designation.
The Pendleton's Crossing landmark study covered an 800-acre buffer zone, which includes the entire HOA subdivision.
So the demolition didn't just destroy my house. It compromised the entire protected area.
Correct. Under the Historic Preservation Act, the penalty can include federal acquisition of land to restore the site.
On the table, a map showed the shaded buffer swallowing the subdivision's streets and houses.
Are you talking about eminent domain? Taking people's homes?
We're obligated to consider it. The law gives us that authority when a landmark is willfully destroyed.
The room fell silent. Timothy stared at the map, the neat rows of homes now flagged as federal interest.
This was never just about my farmhouse. It was always about the land itself.
Prepare for the worst, Mr. Pendleton. This will get larger before it settles.
By evening, every homeowner in the subdivision found the same news alert on their phone. HOA demolishes federal landmark.
There is no reason to panic. This is a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by a man with a grudge.
She called an emergency meeting in the clubhouse. 200 residents packed in, demanding answers.
The county issued a legal demolition order. That house was a danger, a rodent-infested ruin. We acted responsibly.
A man near the front stood up, his phone open to an NPS press release. He wanted to know about the pending landmark status.
That landmark was never finalized. It was a bureaucratic wish, not a law. Trust me, we are in the right.
Murmurs rippled through the room. Some shook their heads. A woman near the exit clutched her mortgage papers.
Everything we've done is legal. I won't let some bitter old man and his Park Service friends destroy what we've built.
But a copy of the federal violation notice was already circulating from phone to phone. The crowd was splitting.
She saw the fear in their faces. And for the first time, it wasn't directed at Timothy. You signed that emergency order. Now the feds are involved, and you need to fix this.
The commissioner's expression hardened. He said the NPS had opened a formal review, and he could no longer vouch for the order's legality.
You can't do this. I have the board, the residents, the whole community behind me.
He cut her off, sliding a federal subpoena across his desk. Her name was at the top of the list.
A subpoena? For me personally?
The commissioner explained the entire county planning department was under federal scrutiny. He had no choice but to cooperate.
You are throwing me to the wolves to save yourself.
He didn't answer. He just pointed to the door, and Cynthia realized the last door in local government had just slammed shut.
She was alone. No county, no residents, just her name on every violation notice.
The federal investigation had undeniable momentum now, and Cynthia Brackett was its primary target. 3 days later, Director Eleanor Vance stepped before a wall of cameras in the NPS briefing room.
This was not a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate act of destruction against a site of national significance. That farmhouse was the centerpiece of the pending Pendleton's Crossing National Historical Park. Its destruction is a federal crime. The Department of the Interior will pursue every legal avenue to hold those responsible accountable, no matter how powerful.
Within hours, the clip played on every national network. The hashtag number Pendleton's Crossing began trending. Public outrage swelled. Historians and former park officials condemned the wreck as a cultural crime. The HOA board, already fractured, watched its name become synonymous with vandalism on every cable news chyron.
We will not allow this to set a precedent. Historic preservation laws have teeth, and we intend to use them.
But she stopped short of specifying the remedy, leaving the subdivision in agonizing suspense. The question no one could answer yet: would the government seize the land, or just punish the individuals? The following morning, a courier delivered a certified package to Timothy's door. National Park Service, return address, pursuant to 16 U.S.C. Section 470F. The demolition of the Pendleton farmhouse triggers the protective buffer clause for the Pendleton's Crossing National Historic Landmark Study Area. The entire 1,200-home subdivision falls within this buffer and is now under federal historic preservation jurisdiction, effective immediately.
It's happening. They're actually enforcing the buffer zone.
A detailed map accompanied the letter, showing the shaded 800-acre zone covering every street, every house. The subdivision appeared as a trespass on federal interest.
This isn't just about punishment anymore. It's about reclaiming the land.
The Department of the Interior is reviewing all legal options, including acquisition of lands within the buffer to restore and protect the historic site.
They didn't say eminent domain outright, but they don't need to. The machinery is already in motion.
He pressed the letter flat on the table. The weight of the next decision settled in the room, and it was no longer his to make.
Cynthia thinks she can control this. She has no idea what's coming.
By noon, Cynthia sat across from a $600 an hour land use attorney, her last line of defense.
The HOA is a private entity. The federal government has no authority over our property.
The attorney set down his pen and asked whether she knew about the pending landmark review before the demolition. Cynthia hesitated. Then he slid the county permit across the table, the one she had signed as vacant and abandoned. Historical structures on site, none. The line was in her own handwriting.
That was an error. The county clerk must have added it after I signed.
Without a word, he turned to the attached county assessor's file, the National Register listing highlighted in yellow. He didn't raise his voice. It was material misrepresentation, not an error. Her name was on the line. Cynthia's face paled. She had hired him for a fortress. He was already calculating his withdrawal.
The law wasn't her ally. Neither was anyone else.
At 9 sharp, a federal courier placed a heavy envelope on the HOA office desk. Department of the Interior. Return address. Pursuant to 16 U.S.C. 470F, the destruction of the Pendleton Farmhouse triggers mandatory protection of the Pendleton's Crossing National Historic Landmark Study Area.
Mandatory protection. What does that even mean?
The entire 1,200-home subdivision lies within the 800-acre protective buffer. The department may acquire lands to restore the historic site. The enclosed map left no room for doubt. Every house, every street, shaded under federal jurisdiction. The HOA has 30 days to respond before the department proceeds with formal acquisition proceedings.
They can't seize an entire neighborhood. That's not eminent domain. That's revenge.
By afternoon, survey stakes marked with federal seals appeared in the common areas, the first physical sign of the coming claim. The HOA's attorney had already filed a challenge, but the truth was plain. Federal historic law carried more weight than covenants.
The buffer zone wasn't just a line on paper. It was a noose, and the HOA had tightened it themselves.
That evening, every folding chair in the clubhouse was full. Neighbors stood against the walls, clutching copies of the federal notice.
This is Timothy Pendleton's revenge. He called in federal pressure to punish us for doing what needed to be done.
A man near the front shouted back. We checked. The landmark study was public record. You knew it was pending.
That study was never finalized. It carried no legal weight. We followed the law.
An older woman in the third row stood. I warned the HOA 2 years ago that this house was historic. You ignored me. Then, a board member rose, voice trembling. Cynthia, you withheld information from us. I am calling for your immediate resignation.
Our attorney is filing an appeal. No one is resigning. We will fight this together.
The room erupted. Chairs scraped. Someone shouted about hiring a separate lawyer for the homeowners. Cynthia's grip on the podium whitened. The HOA board no longer looked like her defense. It looked like a jury.
She had always controlled the meetings. Tonight, the meeting controlled her, and she didn't know how to stop it.
3 days later, the National Park Service held its own meeting in a high school auditorium. Director Vance faced 1,200 anxious homeowners.
Under federal law, the government is authorized to acquire all land within the buffer zone to protect the historic site.
She explained that homes would be purchased at pre-violation assessed value, not current market price. The room went silent. Because the HOA's demolition triggered federal action, the assessed value determines compensation, resulting in an estimated 32% loss for homeowners.
This is not punitive. It is the legal consequence of a violation that devalued the historic resource, and by extension, the buffer.
A woman near the back started crying. Others sat stunned, calculators out, subtracting 32% from dreams they'd bought with 30-year mortgages.
The department will offer relocation assistance. You have 60 days to review the terms and seek legal counsel.
The crowd filed out in shock. Some clutched relocation pamphlets, others simply stared at the ground, their neighborhood already feeling like someone else's land. But Director Vance had not spoken of a final order. The door remained open, if only by a crack, for legal appeal. The 30-day clock was ticking. Every homeowner now faced the same impossible question: accept a loss they didn't cause, or risk losing everything in court. Within a week, federal appraisers walked every street, clipboards in hand, measuring not just houses but the loss.
This is not over. I am filing an emergency injunction. We can still save our homes.
But the neighbors barely looked up. Trust had drained out of the HOA like water from a cracked pipe. Moving vans began appearing. A family strapped a crib to a truck bed. Another painted over a nursery wall.
They're losing everything because one woman refused to see what was in front of her.
His phone buzzed. Director Vance. The Park Service needed his help to plan the interpretive center.
You know this land better than anyone. Timothy, help us tell its story the right way.
If I agree, I am profiting from their loss. If I refuse, the history dies again.
He looked at the certificate, its edges worn from being unfolded so many times.
My ancestor didn't fight for a monument. He fought for a home. Maybe I owe both.
2 days later, Cynthia's attorney filed an emergency motion in federal court, arguing the NPS had overreached its authority. The judge took 1 hour. The order was blunt. 16 U.S.C. 470F is clear, and the demolition triggered unambiguous federal jurisdiction.
They can't just dismiss it. There has to be a higher court. A stay, something.
The motion was denied with prejudice. The court cited the pending landmark study and the buffer clause as controlling law. Her attorney packed his case without a word. There would be no appeal. The statute left no room.
Every door is locked. Every argument has been crushed by a law I pretended didn't exist.
Director Vance announced the NPS would proceed with acquisition. The final administrative steps would begin immediately. Formal notices of intent were dispatched to all 1,200 homeowners, citing the dismissal and setting a final compensation review. Cynthia sat alone in the HOA office, the charter on the wall now just a document without power.
I thought winning meant controlling the outcome. I never understood. The law isn't something you win against.
The 30-day deadline passed without ceremony. On day 31, federal couriers delivered certified acquisition notices to all 1,200 doors. Occupants have 90 days to vacate. Compensation fixed at pre-violation assessed value. The math was final. The loss was 32%. Some homeowners wept on porches. Others argued with appraisers about pools and kitchens that added nothing to the assessed number. Reluctantly, they signed. The subdivision that had been a monument to manicured control became a landscape of cardboard boxes. Timothy drove through the subdivision one last time, before it became federal land. Moving trucks lined the curbs like a funeral procession. He stopped at the rubble field. The yellow tape was gone, but the stones still bore the scars of the bulldozer blade.
This ground held my family's first footsteps in America. Now it holds the end of 1,200 families' dreams.
The last U-Haul pulled away from a blue 2-story where a child had left chalked drawings on the driveway. A stick family, a son, and the words home.
He stood for a long time, clutching the certificate, not triumph, but weight pressing down on him.
By sunset, the subdivision was silent. The for sale signs had been replaced by a single banner at the gate, future home of Pendleton's Crossing National Historical Park. A separate envelope arrived at Cynthia's personal address the next morning. The seal of the U.S. Attorney's Office was unmistakable. Under the Antiquities Act, you are personally cited for the willful destruction of a federally protected historic property.
This can't be right. I was acting on behalf of the HOA. This is persecution.
She grabbed her passport and overnight bag, heading for the garage.
If they're charging me personally, I need time to think. I won't let them make an example of me.
But as she backed out of the driveway, two black SUVs blocked her path. Federal marshals stepped out, badges visible. One held up an arrest warrant.
You don't understand. I have rights. I demand to speak with my attorney.
The lead marshal didn't argue. He recited the charges: one count of violating the Antiquities Act, maximum penalty $250,000, and 5 years. Cynthia Brackett was placed in handcuffs. Across the street, the flash of a camera caught the moment her world collapsed. The federal acquisition closed on a Tuesday. All 1,200 homes were purchased at pre-violation assessed value, $80 million total. The gap between market and assessed price was locked at 32%, a loss the families had to carry alone. Moving trucks choked every cul-de-sac. The last families loaded memories into cardboard boxes. From above, the subdivision looked like a planned ghost town. Driveways empty, swing sets abandoned. A federal judge froze Cynthia Brackett's personal accounts, pending restitution and potential fines.
The Department of the Interior now holds title to all 800 acres. The protection of Pendleton's Crossing begins today.
A woman stopped at the subdivision gate and looked back, then drove away without a word. From the ridge, the entire acreage lay silent. No longer a neighborhood, but a site awaiting restoration. The HOA was gone. The subdivision was gone. Only the law remained, and it had been absolute. National Park Service rangers began patrolling the perimeter, and the gates were marked with the emblem of the Department of the Interior. On a clear spring morning, the Secretary of the Interior signed the order. Pendleton's Crossing National Historical Park was official.
Timothy Pendleton, you are appointed Historical Site Superintendent, charged with rebuilding this homestead and telling its story.
This land held my family's life. Now it belongs to the nation, and I'll make certain the truth is never lost again.
A small gathering of former residents watched from the edge of the property, invited by Timothy for one final acknowledgement.
What happened here was a tragedy, but not your fault. Your sacrifice will be honored in every stone we raise.
The first load of reclaimed fieldstone arrived the next morning, set beside the original foundation stones that still bore chisel marks from 1748. NPS rangers began leading daily interpretive walks through the former subdivision, now marked with numbered posts for future exhibits.
He stood where the front door had been, a blueprint in his hand that followed the original 18th century lines.
The Park Service designated a memorial grove where each relocated family could register their name, turning loss into permanent recognition. The sign at the entrance was replaced a final time. It read simply, Pendleton's Crossing National Historical Park, established to remember. While the park took shape, Cynthia Brackett's trial began in a federal courtroom 3 miles away. Prosecutors held up the county permit. Her own handwriting, the line, historical structures, none circled in red. Her defense argued procedural technicalities. The jury deliberated for just 3 hours on the charge of willful destruction of a historic property under the Antiquities Act. Guilty.
This is it. Everything gone for a grudge I didn't need to hold.
The judge sentenced her to 18 months in federal prison, plus $200,000 in fines. An immediate appeal was filed, then denied. The statute left no room for argument. The HOA's insurance covered a fraction of the damages, but Cynthia's personal accounts were seized entirely.
The former HOA chair, reduced to an orange jumpsuit, and a number.
Her name would appear in the park's historical record, not as a founder, but as the defendant, in United States v. Brackett. 1 year later, the park opened to the public. 200,000 visitors walked the grounds that first year. The rebuilt farmhouse stood exactly where the original had been, fieldstone walls rising from the same foundation.
This house saw the Revolutionary War. Now it sees school children who learn that history is not just in books.
Where the subdivision once stood, trails now wound through native meadow. Interpretive signs marked the site of each former street.
Every stone here has a story. My ancestors, yes, but also the families who lost their homes. This park remembers both.
Rangers led daily tours through the museum, past the certificate that had been Timothy's shield. now framed at the entrance. The former subdivision was gone, but its memory had been transformed into something lasting. Not asphalt, but a living monument. The sign at the entrance no longer named a development company. It read, Pendleton's Crossing National Historical Park.
He stood at the edge of the meadow, watching a school group sketch the farmhouse. The land was quiet again, and so was he.
The law had not just punished, it had restored. And in the end, history had the last word. At sunset, the farmhouse stood like a sentinel, its fieldstone glowing gold against the darkening sky. A new bronze plaque was set into the stone near the entrance, its words simple and permanent. In memory of those who fought for freedom, and one man who fought for history.
He touched the plaque once, then turned toward the path. His work was finished.
The park stretched out before him, the meadow where the subdivision had been now a quiet sea of native grasses. Families had once moved through here with dreams of permanence. Now the land itself was the permanent memory. Timothy walked the trail back to his small cabin at the edge of the park, the same path his grandfather had walked.
Not a monument, just a home, the way it was always supposed to be.
The park fell quiet, save for the wind through the meadow and the distant call of a meadowlark. Pendleton's Crossing was no longer a loss. It was a destination, and the story was complete.